Yeah, let's just go into match number 2 instead, because I'm confused now. It's Bozzzton taking on Feno in this one, and Bozzzton was in contention to take the #1 spot. He no longer has that capacity to do so. Casey dropped his match, moved to 4-4, and so Bozzzton now is fighting to get himself into that second place standing instead. That big way tie that we have that could be in Division B. And for Feno, this is a must-win. Very much like Swids yesterday. It's gotta happen. It's got to. But now's the time. Look, he started out 10-0 in Season 1, 9-0, 10-0, something like that. It's not impossible. We've literally seen him do it before. Non-hyperbole, literally. The time is nigh.
I mean, we're going to start sounding like broken records very soon because it's just true. Every match for Feno is a must-win match at this point. But hell, this is positivity day. Let's focus on Bozzzton winning and going to second place in the group instead.
I'll settle for Feno winning and having some hope, a breath of life.
Yeah, sure. It's fair enough.
I want this music to stay.
The perfect soundtrack.
No, it's serious.
To the Priest Mirror.
It feels like it's making it super dramatic and important, and I love that because it is. You know, we have seen in just 2 seasons of Grandmasters the full range of Feno. We've seen him dominate. We've seen him at the very bottom. We've seen him make brilliant plays. We've seen him make blunders.
We've seen him ecstatic and just dabbing on camera and having a good time. We've seen him despondent and just having to leave the room because he was so upset with what was going on.
I don't like when anyone's upset, but I love when I see raw human emotion.
Yep.
And Feno's the one who delivers. It's competition. Somebody's going to get hit. But in this particular match, I'm sorry, Bozzzton. I gotta root for the guy who needs the breath of life.
Fair enough. I think this is actually one of the harder iterations to play of the Priest Mirror, where Beaming Sidekick is your only 1-drop. Particularly influenced by having Inner Fire in your hand, because you have to consider, like, well, if I draw Powered Shield off the top next turn, then I can just make a 4-4 on turn 2, which is huge in the Priest Mirror. But if I'm need to go in on a minion later, I'm losing my Beaming Sidekick to then be able to tempo out, you know, a mid-range Inner Fire target come turn 3 or turn 4, or whatever it might be. So I think it's a really, really tough version of the matchup to play when you just have that as your 1-drop.
So I guess that's my question to you then, is, you know, to me, this looks a little confusing. I get why you play it. It's a 1-drop. You put it in play. Biggest minion, go face. You know, contain the board, go face. Why play it in this instance? Are you looking specifically for like Power Word Shield payoffs and second Beaming Sidekick payoffs?
Yeah, so second Beaming Sidekick can come off the top, Power Word Shield can come off the top, Injured Tolvir can come off the top. So we're already talking 5 cards at that point where you...
Yeah, that's a lot.
We're in a really decent spot against actually the best opening your opponent can have, which is Nausea Cleric most of the time. And then there's also just all these medium outcomes your opponent can have, you know, like Coin 2-3 or whatever else, where just having those extra threats in play can do those extra points of damage just to chip away and make sure you don't snowball. And honestly, like the real simple TLDR version of that in the matchup is just if you don't play stuff, you just start falling behind. Every minion you don't play is just another step further behind on the board you get.
It sounds weird, but a damage is a damage,
yeah,
and you need the damage.
Right.
I mean, it seriously does look silly, but something in my head, I see every single good Priest player do this exact same thing. They roll their eyes, they shrug their shoulders and be like, if I don't play this, things are just going to get worse. And I'm like, wow. And then I see him win like a number of those games, and I'm like, I can't believe they won. And you can trace it back to that 1-2. Now sometimes they lose. In fact, I would say when you're opening his Beaming Sidekick, you probably lose more often than you win.
That's fair.
But there are times that it matters. You know, Bozzzton perhaps prompted to use 2 Beaming Sidekicks of his own, become vulnerable to the silence that was sitting in Feno's hand. As a result of him being so aggressive, he's like, I need to get going because extra arms is a real possibility. You know, there's information sent over to Bozzzton when Feno plays that 1-2 as well. How do you counter aggression? You play aggression of your own. Capitalize with the silence. Try to get something rolling.
It's still a weird-looking scenario because all you've seen, just as a casual onlooker, is that 1-2 getting eaten for free, essentially, at this point.
I wonder.
I still think it's justified.
But did it prompt action? That's
Right,
always my question.
That's like the intangible in a lot of situations, and it's why it's so hard to learn from empirical evidence in Hearthstone. Is just sometimes it's really hard to divine what exact impact one individual card, what one individual play had on a matchup.
Like I look at this, and if the Season 1 champ plays a 1-2 against me and then plays a regular 2-3 against me, I'm going, he's got to have extra arms. I'm going in. I'm playing my stuff.
Quickly.
In the light's name.
Yeah, I think you need to kill that injured Blade Master. Make the sacrifice.
It's not a huge sacrifice. What does the board look like afterwards? You have a 2-2, your 1-2's gone, and you heal it back up to a 2-4. So you have 2-4 versus 2-2 instead of this.
Well, this is a spot where Feno's trades, they look worse. And I think that's what Bozzzton is looking at. But honestly, I feel like he almost tricks himself here with a spot like this. Like, yeah, the trades are worse, but you can also just keep your opponent at a worse board position. And kind of the way that I'm looking at it is, well, it's tough for Feno to trade into the Light Ward, and he can't heal and trade. He has to have a buff and trade.
Right.
I don't want my opponent to have an option of buff and trade. I want to just take it away and make the 2-2 run into my Light Ward instead.
But the same thing happens. Except you just made a worse trade on the previous turn. Like if a 2-2 goes into the Light Warden, both minions die. If the Blade Master goes into the Light Warden, both minions die.
Well, was that the case here?
No, it wasn't against that exact
well then
specific
that's
hand.
exactly the point I'm getting at. I don't want him to have options.
Well, I think you have to really struggle to leave your opponent with to leave the board in a state that is better for your opponent to play around combinations of 2 cards in a 3-card hand. Four card.
That extra arms draw was mega.
And I'd also present the argument that if your opponent's going to use an Inner Fire defensively like that in the matchup, you're not really mortified about it, with you still having board presence remaining afterwards as well.
It being Inner Fire specifically was pretty ugly.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much been the story of Feno this game. It's like the plays just looked ugly. Played a 1-2 on turn 1 that wasn't a Light Warden.
He's just had to make stuff happen with inefficient resources most times.
Played a Nephroset Ritualist on turn 2 instead of an Ninja Tolvier.
Yep.
Played a Silence to try to get something done. Had to use an Inner Fire instead of a Divine Spirit or an extra arms. You know, like just had the bad side of it. Tried to make the most work, and Bozzzton was able to take advantage of that with one fortunate draw.
Oof.
Ah, the old defensive top seed.
6-2 into 2-6. Feno just says, I need time. These minions go face this turn. I need to play Bomb Samdi next turn. Those minions probably go face again a lot of the time.
Yep, they're going face a lot.
I can't take 6. He can't just take 13 plus minions being played this turn plus 13, because that's just kills him. So he has to give Priest a bigger health pool on one of their minions, which is a disaster.
Yeah, Feno's pushed out of this game. The deck does not have the recovery potential. It's about taking the board and keeping it. When those two collide, usually one of them resoundingly wins. $11 on deck for Bozzzton next turn. He can make it 13 with more arms. Feno takes the risks. He says, I cannot afford to silence here.
I must consider.
There is about one world where Bozzzton actually loses, And that would be if he doesn't put any damage into Bozzzton and Feno's able to draw and have perfect.
There's literally 3 cards that could be in Feno's hand, that could be Divine Spirit, and a buffer, Topsy or Inner Fire. And those 3 cards exactly would have to be those 3 cards.
And one of them is a draw next turn.
Yeah. Outside of that, it's like Northshire Cleric, and one of the cards is Circle of Healing, and he finds all of those same things as well.
Bozzzton's scary. You know, for Feno, that risk is easy to take. What am I going to do about it? When you're in Bozzzton's spot and you're this far ahead, you think about it much differently.
Bozzzton, the rope. There's still so many decisions to make. I'm worried.
He's made them.
Okay. See, I was wondering whether we might see Sokopon for 2/6 Taunt there, which then needs... Feno essentially needs to throw a silence into that equation as well, which he does have. It's weird that the world we're talking about is almost an exact reality for Feno's hand.
All right. Feno's got to go drawing with Northshire, and he's got to draw perfect afterwards.
For what? What's the perfect?
Circle.
And then after that?
Wild Pyromancer, circle.
I wonder.
All right. Sign me up.
But, I mean, what else you going to do?
Yeah.
You gonna play a Light Warden? You gonna beaming sidekick? You gonna defensively interfire again? Start drawing.
Nope, none of that.
It's much tougher in his spot because he's trying to envision what that perfect outcome looks like. I got no idea.
Yeah. Not sure it exists.
I know it's drawing a bunch of cards, I can tell you that much.
But we're going to find out.
Not a bunch of cards.
It's 13 in play.
Got to silence his
He
hand
needs
though.
to silence something. Get around this.
And Bozzzton doesn't have the damage in hand yet. You silence off the injured Tol'Vir. That's 2 less damage you take. A shred of light. But oh, is that shred small. And oh, is that shred gone.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yep, there you go. Just be responsible, Bozzzton. It doesn't matter, but just take the 2 damage anyway, just because it's correct.
You have better.
Wouldn't have mattered at all in the end. He had plenty of overkill with that topsy-turvy, but I love the catch, just saying, all right, just not make a mistake. Doesn't matter if it's not going to matter. It would still be a mistake. It would still play on my mind. It would still be something I'm thinking about next game.
Make a habit of playing clean.
Yeah. And you saw it exactly, just as I said, whoa, 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 whoa. You saw the gesture. His hands came off the mouse, and he went, all right, stop. Second, breathe, let's go.
Yeah. Just an explosive matchup. Bozzzton resoundingly won it. Feno kind of on the bad side of it. Had a weak opening. Wasn't able to capitalize. Not much more to say.
Priest Mirrors, am I right?
You're right. And going to a break, am I right?
You are right.
Yeah, I'm right. Going to a break. When we come back, game number 2 between Feno and Bozzzton is coming up. Second match of 6 that we have lined up today.
Legends say powerful treasures are hidden everywhere here in Aldum.
If we hope to defeat Rafam, we'll need as many as we can get. He's already unleashed the ancient plague lords and countless monsters. Keep them distracted, Reno.
Not a problem. This plan is totally gonna work. Ain't that right, Finley?
Oh, yes! I have them right where I want them.
There is an artifact here. The name is...
The scales of justice. Oh, it must be really fancy.
only to be used in a time of great peril. Yes, I think this qualifies.
Hey, look, Finley! You've lured one of the Plague Lords!
Take this, fiend!
In the face! Yeah! Hey, guys! Get that treasure! We've got a Plague Lord to destroy!
Yes, please, hurry!
Not to worry, Finley. We just push this thing right here.
No, that's a trap! Watch out!
It's all good. I am phonily timed.
Gracious me!
What we actually need to do is press this. And there.
A
fish.
No, It's the scales of justice.
Oh. Ah, who wants to use it first?
Oh, I do! Me! On second thought, maybe give it to Finley?
All you had to do was hold a rope.
Here we go, blaming the tall, ruggedly handsome guy again.
My name is Thijs. How did I come up with my username? Well, my name is Thijs, and first I was called Thijs NL because Thijs was taken already, so I couldn't take it anymore. And I was a very creative person because I put up my 2 country letters behind it, and that's how I came up with it. What I look forward the most in Grandmasters is the prestige. I have been very looking forward to a more like league-based system, so I was very happy when Grandmaster got announced and really looking forward for like the rivalry between people by all the matches, and I am actually thinking it's gonna be great. What makes me very unique is that I just really am very passionate about Hearthstone. Of course, a lot of fun comes also with winning, but for me it's also the engagement with the community and just like making people so happy sometimes by just like being on stream, being online, playing in a tournament. That motivates me a lot as well to just be there for the community. I have a very preferred style of playing. It's definitely something that I want to be less predictable, but it's always going to be a challenge for me. I want to just prove over and over again that I'm still like one of the best players in the world. Getting to the top is difficult, but staying at the top is, in my opinion, even more difficult. So I'm just going to do everything I can, and yeah, my goal is kind of getting to the World Championship.
Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. I'm Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora, joined by Simon Soto-Welch, and we are amidst our second match today, where currently Bozzzton has a 1-0 lead over Feno. As we're heading into a Shaman versus Priest game, Bozzzton going to be on the Shaman in this one.
And we just saw this go the way that was unexpected. Bunny Hopper picking up a win with Shaman, acknowledged in his post-game interview that it was Priest-favored, but he was able to get over the line with those big Mogu Flesh Shaper Evolve turns, Bat Ahead coming out, but you know, we'd argue maybe a big 8-drop gets him over the line regardless of what it is. And I'm really an advocate that that is kind of a go-to thing in the matchup. It's one of the things that you should be mulliganing for in your opening hand with Shaman, because it's just one of the things that can compete with the power level of what Priest can do in the early turns, that you can swing back at them. Because as great as lackeys are, playing a bunch of 1-1s and 2-1s and then 1-1s and 2-1s, like, it doesn't compete too well with what Priest can output in the early game.
Matchup good, look for battle cries. Matchup bad, look for Mogu mutate.
That is a pretty good soundbite, yeah. Don't look for Barista former champ Bog Slosher.
Hey, I'm just saying, if you, I've already said I was rooting for Feno in this one. He's the one who needs the breath of life. And Sottle said it earlier. I was actively rooting against former champ. Now, I don't actively root against it in the deck list, just when it shows up.
That's just mean.
I must consider.
Look, if the deck had current champ, that's a different story. All right?
What would current champ do?
Well, he'd win.
That's the card text.
Yeah.
You win.
In a roundabout way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're saying there's a chance.
Well, what's the chance? What's the lackey?
What is things to do? Faceless Lackey for a start. You draw Weaponized Wasp next turn.
I'm thinking this might be a liability this turn.
Sure.
I'm looking at nothing.
Totem is also a liability this turn.
Yeah, I think you float 2 mana. This is why the matchup hurts. All the Priest 1-drops, except for just the 1/2 alone. They're pretty bad for you.
So one of the reasons I like playing it is that it does play to a Weaponized Wasp out, where you can just get it on the board now. You can play a 3/3 next turn, which is Bog Slosher if it comes to it, and then on 4 you have Lackey Weaponized Wasp to maybe fight back against the board somewhat.
Yeah.
If you don't do that now, then you're not hitting that curve. If you
I
get
see.
that out.
You're taking the hit now because you want the 3/3 to try to soften up the board next turn.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's also just, you know, if you don't get the Lackey in your hand now and you draw Weaponized Wasp in the next couple of turns, you just haven't spent the mana to be able to activate the Weaponized Wasp in a timely manner. I just said the word mana in the 2 different contexts, and they sound exactly the same. I probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. Talk gooder.
It's very rare that I say mana followed by mana, and you get to hear how ridiculous it actually is.
Yeah. It must be really tough to be a Spanish person ordering seltzer and not getting salsa. I would know.
Does that happen?
Well, that's a Seinfeld joke.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
Yeah. That's where they came up with the idea for the show about nothing, is they're sitting in the cafe and they make the joke about salsa being the #1 condiment in America. I digress. It's a Seinfeld joke.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You very much exhibited the UK version of that. Is there a UK equivalent to that show?
There's little time.
Not really, I suppose. I mean, we have a lot of like sitcoms that don't really have like overarching big plot points on
Whoa.
episodes.
Why not the Bog Slosh?
Yeah, that confuses me too. It really makes me question like where his game plan was. Like I thought I understood what the game plan was with playing the Evil Cable route on 2, but now if the totem's happening, I don't really get it at all.
To me, it's just looking like Bozzzton. Like he's like, jeez, I'm not gonna win. Like, it's not wrong. I mean, like Feno's hand would have to be dreadful, but like take your 1 or 2% or whatever.
I don't ever want to suggest that that's what someone's thinking, and I don't think Bozzzton is in this position.
It's just his facial expression. Like he's like, I don't know.
But I don't like that. Also, could have been like he pressed totem and then he realized how stupid pressing totem was and just hated his play all of a sudden.
It's kind of the same thing,
It
right?
could be a lot of things.
I wonder.
Like, don't beat yourself up. Find the good in it, and just play to that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you play Bog Slosher and the Light Warden has to trade with it and then gets healed back up to a 3 health minion afterward, got a Weaponized Wasp out at that point.
And your opponent doesn't play this Acolyte of Pain.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things that happen. To me, the plan, I guess that was going through his head now that I see Mogu Flesh Shaper, was roll a 0/2, taunt it up, and then have the 0/4 block and draw Mogu and make it easier to play.
So he has a 1/1 protected on board if he gets the 0/2?
It like makes the Mogu cheaper.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same thing as Weaponized Wasp, but the problem is the
Sure.
Light Warden still sits at 4 health.
Yeah.
Wow, no Pyro first. Just go for the Inner Fire.
Well, it seems reasonable.
Makes sense, yeah. Nothing's weak to Mogu here.
Don't.
I didn't say anything.
You looked. I saw it.
Come on. Like, look at what happened in the early stages. Like, you needed to draw perfect. That's the matchup. It's just a bad matchup.
Yes. It doesn't really matter what your disagreement with a former champ is. Like, unless your equivalent of this card would be, like, a Lickum or a Lightning Bolt or a Zap or something.
2
like,
Earth Shocks.
Yeah, right. Like, if that card that you want to name instead of this was drawn in that opening hand with Barista Lynching and just nothing going on, like, yeah, you were going to have dead turns against Priest no matter what this choice of card was.
Yeah, it would just have to be a major divergence from the norm.
Yeah.
I must consider.
Cool.
I'd call that an inadequate response to that draw. Shall I give an example?
Go ahead. All right. Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
See it.
You know, I like that Feno has taken his time. Honestly, like, it's been a rough season. Make sure you're getting it picture perfect. because the time is nigh. This is your game to seize. You're going into game 3 with momentum.
Consider.
I see a dark
Just sit and let that stew with Bozzzton. Do everything you can to try to snag any edge you can, whether that's a mental edge, game edge, anything. You need it all right now.
Sludge Slurper, Ethereal Lackey, Plague of Murlocs. That is none of those things.
Head in the clouds, Lackey. Doesn't do nothing.
I need to stop getting annoyed by that, so you stop doing it, because I know that's why you're doing it, but I can't help it.
what to do.
Poor predictable Soddle.
Yeah. Just so easily manipulable.
I hope you like my invention.
I actually can't call you out on whether that's a word because I don't know. It doesn't sound like one to me. Manipulable.
Always little time.
Bear with me. You could just be that fancy with words. I mean, I'm just that easily manipulated.
It's a word.
Makes sense.
Verified.
All right, no fancy tricks. And I think that's part of what Fino's thinking about as well. I don't have any tricks, so I got to make the most of minions. Take your time on combat.
I must consider.
One copy of Giggling Inventor in Bozzzton's deck, 2 copy of Mind Control Tech. Because we're on the Giggling Inventor looking turn from Bozzzton, Fino is pretty interested in finding ways to set up as strong as he can against both of those scenarios.
Right.
Consider.
The potential problem is that a lot of his turns end up with exactly 5 minions in play also, which is the worst case scenario against Mind Control Tech, but he does have to consider, like you said, risk and reward versus Giggling and versus Mind Control, and how often does he just push lethal through Mind Control Tech anyway.
Yeah, so that tells me you want to go with the Psycho Pump even though the target's weak, and just load up the Wild Pyromancer with 7 health. This gives you the most presence on board. You restrict the presence on Bozzzton's board. Leaves the Lackey there. He knows he's got a Lackey on the other side of the hand, so...
Yeah, I don't think it's doing too much harm, right?
Yeah.
Hero Power Weaponized Wasp costs 5 anyway, so the only real thing you can do alongside that is just the other Lackey that you have in hand. That's about the only impact that it's likely to have.
I think anything he did there, you could find pros and cons to.
Sure.
I think at this stage, the big step is make sure you're overwhelming.
Yeah. We didn't actually account for the overload on the previous turn from the Sludge Slurper,
Yeah,
which means that the Giggling
story.
Inventor was not a thing he had to worry about at all.
And so I think playing this way just to load up against Mind Control Tech makes sense. You have 4 minions versus what's going to be 4.
Right. It's just one of those turns that's like, well, I have 3 things in play. I really want to play more, and that's annoying me because I don't want to play into Mind Control Tech. So then the next best thing you can do is just play everything so you overload the Mind Control Tech.
It's like the power of AoE 101, right? It's like your opponent is going to do something that can punish not doing enough. So you just have to take the punish versus, you know, what could be too much.
Right.
So be it. Yeah, your hand's just dry. What can you do?
Ew. That is upsetting.
Is that enough?
How do you do 7 efficiently? You just kind of don't, right? That's irritating. 3-6, 3-3 and 1, I guess is the best way to do
3,
it.
3, and 1. You never set Ritualist. Heal up both your things. That puts the Light Warden at 5. You heal again. That's 6, 7. You have 2 more from
Ahmet.
It's 8, 9.
Yeah. That's where my count's at too.
Is an afterthought.
But I mean, look at it.
Yeah. Now it is Giggler turn, though. Good news, there's a giant Pyromancer in play, which can, if your deck cooperates with you on the following turn, can make a mess of Giggling Inventors.
Yeah, it's pretty much just the board made the mess of it. Game 3.
Sandstorm and the Mogu and heal for 6 and put a big taunt in the way? No. Still not enough, right?
I don't think so. He gets to kill 1 minion. I guess the Mogu
Oh, he does better than that.
makes it 2.
He does significantly better than that. Could bypass the Life Drinker to double up on the battle
I see. Yeah. I was like, that means you don't play the Life Drinker. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's... If you kill a Light Ward, that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of justifiable, right? I still don't think it's enough. On board. 4 and 7 goes
I'm counting 8
in. 5,
damage.
7, 8 damage. Yeah, he's just dead on board exactly.
You win this one.
Tie game. Priest picking up 2 wins, 1 on each side. So now it's up to the rest of the lineup to get the job done. Whew, matches feel so tense when players need wins to me.
Yeah, no, they really do, and I think we can, you can hear in our voices the way we deliver. Like everything is so tense from Feno's perspective, particularly just because it was just such a great experience last season, just watching him, finally get that huge payoff because he has been kind of a nearly man, I guess. Like he did take down that that tour stop last year, but outside of that, he didn't really have that level of success at like HCT championship events. He wasn't the points leader, even though he was right up there because Hunter Ace is Hunter Ace and just made anyone else being the points leader impossible. So seeing him have like his big breakout performance and say like, yo, I just won this whole season was such a feel good thing, and now just to see him struggling on the following season.
It's like that changed in season 1.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be one of the global finalists.
Right.
That's what it feels like to me. It's like the matchups with like Priest versus Shaman, for instance, they already feel rough enough where I'm like, I am looking for the toughest way to get out of this situation. You just need to draw the goods.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have them, it doesn't work. And when you compound that with the issue that like Feno is like, he's got a great hand, but he's just not drawing the finishing parts, I'm like, I'm getting worried. Like bad stuff could happen when Shaman just gets the time for it. And seeing him close that one out, and now we go head to game number 3, the Shaman mirror match. This is one of the matches that does feel very volatile to me as well, where it can snowball pretty heavily one way or the other. If you're not, keeping a check on board and making sure that your opponent's not getting in chip damage, stuff like Life Drinker becomes paramount in the burn race. Being able to hold Kobold Lackeys should you pick them up, that can become a big deal. There's a lot of little factors and a lot of checkboxes you have to hit to get things right in this matchup.
There is, and I believe that was a snap full keep from Feno. Kept Quest, obviously, Evil Totem, Mogu Flesh Shaper on the play, which, again, Mogu Flesh Shaper, we've talked about how primarily it's like, well, in bad matchups, it's something that you can use because it's just kind of a scammy combo with the Mutate and you can find your way out of bad matchups. This obviously isn't a bad matchup, it's a mirror match, but it's still, this is the one matchup where it really does shine as well because it's, again, just one of the things you can do in the early game that your opponent just doesn't interact well with. Both players are kind of forced by the necessity of the way their deck works to just spread small minions all over the board in the early game. If they're going to do that, you can get an incredibly cheap Mogu Flesh Shaper to come down.
Bozzzton going with the Sludge Slurper here to try and contest an Evil Totem. Should that be the play on Feno's side? He answers that promptly. That's the Feno style that we were used to. Jam the thing down, let it do the thing, play more things.
Sandstorm, your turn. Do, idiot.
Yeah, that's the punish to the Sludge Slurper. I've made that play a number of times, and I have been so satisfied with it, but that's why Feno snap kept. He's like, you know what, I got the Sludge Slurper checked, and if he doesn't do anything, I already have the Evil Totem.
The Sandstorm was the first draw off the top. He didn't actually keep that in the opening.
Oh, did you not keep that one?
No.
Okay, touche. I mean, I'm snap keeping the totem anyway. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I'm definitely keeping Mogu in the matchup. That's kind of the card.
Double time and double pay.
Fino gives the nod. This turn is fantastic. I feel for Bozzzton this one. I think his decision is wise to try to check the evil totem.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you talk about the punish, but the punish was Sandstorm Elemental into that totem being there specifically as well, right? Like, that was the 1-2 punch that really hurt him.
Yeah.
And even then, he found his way out of it. Just picked up a Rush Lackey and wasn't at the end of the world. He's back in the game. Kind of a clunky-looking hand again, though.
Belong to the bomb now.
Kind of a decision point there for Fino. Had two ways he could play out that turn, either ending up with a Sandstorm bounced back into his hand or a Titanic Lackey, depending on which way around he wanted to do it.
Yeah, I think he chose to go it this way because the Wasp turn isn't brutal. And I think that's what you're looking for, is the Wasp turn not being brutal. It certainly, I think, hurts because it's a buff one. It's something that directly impacts the board for Fino here. But if he had gone for Mogu Flesh Shaper in this spot and Bozzzton had a Lackey that affected the board, like, that is a major swing that happens all of a sudden.
Well, he could have done the same thing the other way around, sacrifices Lackey, right? So he trades over with the Sandstorm Elemental, bounces back the Sandstorm Elemental, and then uses the Titanic Lackey to make a 3-5, in which case he's not vulnerable to Wasp at all. But of course, the opportunity cost of that is that you don't have a Lackey in your hand anymore, which is a big deal when you draw Wasp.
And I think that's really the consideration. You know, you will go pretty far out of your way to maintain Wasps in the matchup. So I like the decision point from Fino. He's thinking about rolling a totem here. I was thinking Mogu Brew it.
What to do?
Yeah, I don't hate that.
Looks like that's what Fino's landing on too.
Mortals are so squishy. Those little times.
Core winces, he sees something target the Mogu, and then a sigh of relief as the thing that targets it is the Youthful Brewmaster, which is still pretty bad for him, but it's not 8-drop bad.
Yeah. You see the importance of that Lackey for Bozzzton as well. But that makes turns complicated on Bozzzton's side. You know, what if they do have the mutate and they just wanted to take another swing turn? Ooh, what happens if they draw the mutate? What happens if they draw the Lackey? Like, how much can you really develop into board here? Like, knowing that the Mogu's there, honestly, just it feels like it makes it just harder.
Yeah, in a weird way, yeah, I get what you're saying. It is bizarre. You're just waking up in cold sweats, seeing Mogu Flesh Shapers rushing at all your minions.
I don't want that feeling.
No. Just another kind of slow, clunky hand this game from Bozzzton. Didn't get all the fast Lackey generators and so forth in the early games. Barista, former champ, stuck in hand again. Bog Slosher as well, that was present last game. Pretty much the same hand.
Biggest minion.
Go face. Oh, you can't. It's torn away. Oh, unlucky.
I mean, technically former champ's the biggest minion, but I think that for Bozzzton's perspective, mutate is a real draw. And so you want to have the former champ, you know, be hit by that one instead.
Sure.
And for Fino, that's a lot of mana development. Life Drinker, Evil Totem, Mogu Flesh Shaper, make the most of it. And that's completed as well.
Quest gets done this turn as well, yep.
All right, we got a fight on our hands.
We do. If Bozzzton can get a grip on the board state, though, he does have a significantly higher value hand than Fino does currently.
Yeah, that's really the one thing that I'm looking at too is what are Bozzzton's biggest draws right now? I'm thinking Sludge Slurper's definitely one of them. I'm thinking Sandstorm Elemental's one of them. Thinking
Mind Control Tech, depending on how this board ends up, and I think Fino will certainly have all of those things that you mentioned on his mind and be considering what those trades mean.
Those little times.
You know, I was looking at cleaning up the board position. You're already pretty vulnerable to Sandstorm Elemental just because you have the Evil Totem in play. I want to restrict that ability from Bozzzton.
Whoa, slows down.
Interesting. You know, this is actually really smart from Fino, I think. And the reason why is, sure, the 3/4 in play fights really well, but you're getting a third of the way through your deck. You're light on card draw right now. And if that's the kind of turn like where you draw Mutate and can't do anything, that's a big deal. So Bozzzton doesn't know what your hand is other than that Mogu Flesh Shaper and that you have a random lackey. He can easily develop a couple minions here, and then you drop Giggling Inventor Mogu Flesh Shaper and have a swing turn. Like, that's a real thing. Bozzzton always has to fear that Mogu Flesh Shaper. That affects the way he plays the game. That gives Fino information and opportunity.
I think on top of that as well, I said for Fino, he'll be considering the implications of these trades and what they mean for Sandstorm Elemental, for Mind Control tech. As I said that, I started to look at the breakpoints myself, and like the good trades just kind of didn't really exist to play around those eventualities. So Fino went, all right, well, if none of those good trades exist, I'm just not going to make that turn. I'm going to do something else instead.
One bad trade can cost you a game.
Yeah.
I wonder. Float like a butterfly. Sting like a bee.
Giggling Inventor makes that Mogu free. Fino just, he's like, oh, yeah, now.
The big old whiff.
Yeah, that map didn't have the best directions on it, did it?
Sorry, guys, am I late? Like, yes, Steve, the party is over. You can't just show up at 3 a.m. with a case of beer. That's not how it works.
Come on, Steve, get it together. Whoa.
Of course it's the right way.
So Fino very interested in doubling up on that Giggling Inventor because he's running Shroud cards. Ooh, that's potentially a big draw.
Just so much more value in this hand from Bozzzton now, and that lackey pickup, double lackey pickup, might represent the tempo swing that he needs to start using this value effectively. Rush lackey will just about do it. Bozzzton has board. Bozzzton has resources. Fino has a spell lackey and a dream right now.
I wonder.
So if Rush Lackey comes down, Weaponized Wasp comes down, you're adding 2 to the board, which means Mogu costs 0, but you will be killing something with the Wasp, which will make it go back up to 1, which means you won't have the mana to spend it.
I think that's what he's looking at, and I think he's also considering Bog Slosher.
Sure. I want to just spell Lackey Mogu Flesh Shape first. Forget about my Wasp.
Just gotta hurry up.
I don't need him.
So now Bozzzton's doing the same thing with Mogu Flesh Shaper. He's taking his time.
Well, it's awkward. I mean, I kind of facetiously suggested throwing away the lackeys. It's not a particularly good idea, and that was the turn that gave you a good Mogu Flesh Shaper that turn, if you just threw away both of your lackeys when you had 2 Weaponized Wasps in hand. So I think it's just a slightly awkward turn to get the Mogu down. Decided to go Weaponized Wasp instead.
Whoa, he actually took the Stormbringer.
Yeah.
It sounds good when you make a bunch of Annoyatrons.
I was going to say, you're about to play like 4 Divine Shield minions.
I'm snapping that reaction off.
What?
I want to make sure that if it's necessary, I can draw into the deck.
It's interesting. Rock Fighter did buy you a lot of board that turn. I certainly can't hate drawing a card when I've just been harping on about how low on resources Fino is right now. Fino is just trying to stretch this out as far as he can right now. My hand kind of sucks. I don't need this Wasp to do 3. I need this Wasp to do 6.
I'm interested by that. I'm curious what he's spotting in the momentum. I think it's, I mean, is it literally the Stormbringer turn where he's like, I want to make sure that I can, if I can't use Stormbringer on all my Noyatrons, I want to make sure I can fight for board?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because if he wanted to, if his game plan was like, get stuff on board Stormbringer, like if that's where he was tunneled, then I think the Rockbiter is a better pick than the Elementary reaction for that purpose, because you buy so much extra board using a Rockbiter that turn. As it turns out, he got Kobold Lackey and ended up in a very similar position, but you don't know that's going to happen, right? So I think this is just kind of a balancing act of, this makes me a very token-based board, which is great for Stormbringer, but it also, like I said, stretches out those resources a little bit further because I don't use a Weaponized Wasp in a, I guess, inefficient way when you consider how doubling the hero power can work.
See, and that's the thing for me, though, is if he was going to play Stormbringer next turn or ever had the intent to, wouldn't you be trading off the Lackey in that instance?
Trading off which? Sorry, there's a lot of Lackeys in play right now.
Bozzzton had the one Lackey in play. If Fino had that intent, wouldn't he be setting that up by playing that stronger? Like,
sure. Yeah, no, which is kind of what I'm leading to with like Rockbiter.
He didn't mess this up, right?
Keeps happening.
Okay.
Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, he didn't disparagingly react it, but he reacted kind of nervously, and I was like...
All right. Now, all of a sudden, we have a real game. Pretty much even situations on both sides on all counts. Bozzzton a little bit lower on health.
I'm looking at one big kicker in the middle of Fino's hand.
Yeah. Yeah, but Bozzzton lower on health, but has a slight board advantage, but Fino has initiative right now. So suddenly, Fino just kind of slow playing for a couple of turns, essentially, just not committing resources to the board where they can be dealt with. He's caught up in terms of resources, and he's just now back in a position where suddenly there's parity.
I think there's two big things for Fino here. Number one, he saw Bozzzton not use a mutate, but that doesn't mean you don't account for Witchy Lackey.
Right.
And then number two, mind control tech.
This could be the Stormbringer turn right here. Just value trade the totem.
Yeah, mind control tech, exactly.
Whoa!
Oh my goodness! And that's... Oh, this is not Storm You! That's the weakness of Bozzzton!
If you ever needed a minion to stop you going 0-8, how about an 8-8 that draws 8 cards, Admirable? Octodad's got your back in this spot.
All right, Fino has little time too, but this is his territory.
Speed chest, lightning round. I don't think we're even going to try. Just watch and enjoy, folks. Oh, the mind control tech! Second minion will die. There it goes.
There is... no, I mean, Bozzzton can't come back. I mean, what can he do? Like, he's got to draw mind control
Double
tech.
mind control tech himself.
Well, it's not a mind control tech. He's got... That's a lot of damage to board, but...
Witchy Lackey his Giggling Inventor into a Rush, Molt Muncher. Weaponized Wasp something that doesn't draw Fino 8 cards.
All right, back to sanity.
I mean, that looked pretty good, right?
That was really good. Let's go, Bozzzton. He came through the clutch.
Oh, is he dead?
I don't
10, 19, 21 currently goes face, I believe. No, wait, he can do it 3. He can do it again with the Bog Slosher.
20 is 21, 22.
12, 14,
no,
21,
that's lethal.
20, 23 exactly, yeah.
Wow.
Triple Rush Lackey. Well, quad Rush Lackey, in fact.
Hey, you know what? I'm proud of Bozzzton for those last couple turns. I really am. I think that was tough. I think he was in a really rough spot, and he made the most of that one. But the man of the hour, a breath of life, a new hope. The return of the Fino. He breaks the curse. Match win.
He didn't even draw his 8 cards. What a scruff. Unforgivable.
What's that 1/7 taunt called? The 4-mana one?
Reynard's favorite card?
Sure. That's the name you know it by? Why can't I remember the name of this card? 1/7 taunt. That's the stat line we've gotten to, okay? Something's happened. It's lightened up. There is a shred of light at the end of that dark, dark tunnel he's been going through. He put up the 10-0 last season. This is the start of something. I'm telling you right here. If he goes 7-7 from here, that's a massive accomplishment from the hole he was in.
Mogushon Warden? Okay. There's too many like Mogu, Mogushon, Moshog type stuff now.
He's
that
become the Mogushon Warden.
Yeah. I mean, what an ending. You can't ask for anything better, right? Like, when chaos reigns like that, first Bozzzton, who's a player who struggled with rope decisions this season. Like, we were casting with the rope on us. We didn't really have enough time to explain why that Nozdormu was potentially a big deal for Bozzzton. But as you saw, he does keep encountering these positions where he's right on that razor line with the rope coming down in terms of getting actions to come through. So it was a big test for him with the rope coming through, and he executed some turns which, who knows if they were optimal, but they looked pretty good in the situation, which is about all you can ask with Nozdormu. But then that Stormbringer outcome, like, if you've been watching Purple's stream recently, you've been seeing a guy who knows how to high roll some random legendaries. But that was right up there, and it was exactly what Fino needed in that spot.
And we got an interview with our winner. Fino, can you hear us?
Damn, I'm a winner.
Hey!
Hello, guys.
Volume's a little bit quiet on your end. I want to hear this though, man. Like this was a tough run that you went through, and you finally broken the curse.
Yes.
Give me the thoughts.
I mean, I don't know. I think my group this time around is way harder, and I'm not gonna be the guy who says that she got unlucky here, she got unlucky there. I think all of the people that I played against, especially Bunny and my game against Bunny and against Boar, I think they played extremely well. And I haven't been playing well. Like, I'm not going to lie. I don't think I play as optimally as I played, like, last season, for example. And the fact that I feel my league now has stronger players, they punish me more for that, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense.
It does, yeah. I want to support. I said that almost exact that same thing yesterday at the end of the show, where I said it felt like every time you made a mistake, because most people are making mistakes.
Yeah, they know how to punish mistakes.
Yeah, every time you made one, you were against the guy that was playing perfectly. Like that was going wrong the whole time. But I want to ask you about that Shaman game in particular. Obviously, the ending was crazy, and that's what everyone's going to remember. But there was a period where you got down to like 2 cards in hand, and Bozzzton has like 6 or 7. And it seemed like at that point, like, you started playing even slower to, like, stretch out those resources. Like, was that the case? What were you thinking at that point?
Like, the thing with Shaman is that you can have 0 cards, and then you get 1 Lucky, or one like, Cable Rat, or 1 Novice, and then all of a sudden your hand is full. So, like, I always felt like it didn't matter that much. I think the key turn was the turn that I did the Wasp and Legendary thing. I don't know the name. I think that was the key turn of the game, because I could giggling there, but it would give him such a good like Sandstorm guy, and then I thought I would never be able to get the Stormbringer out. Also, 3 minions is perfect, right? Like if you get 3 legendaries, it's not easy for him to deal with. And I got lucky finally, and I rolled like the good legendaries with high health, and yeah. Worked out well.
Well, I'm sorry that I'm going to hit you with a hard one here, Fino, but this season, it's been obviously really tough, and we saw the big moment on camera where it felt like it was just everything culminating in this explosion of bad things happening. But you focused a lot last season on your mentality and staying calm and staying in the right mindset. What did you do this season to help you get in that mindset? I caught your stream at the end of last week coming into this one, and it seemed like you were in a good headspace. So I'm curious what you've been doing.
I'm in a very good space. Like, I want to point this out. Like, I honestly don't mind. Like, I don't think it's like even a shame to be last in my league. Like if we played an 8-man tournament and I played against those players and I got last, I'd be like, all right. Like I wouldn't be upset or like mad at myself for that. And no matter what happens, like I'm gonna keep playing Hearthstone, and I'm in a good space. I feel I have been punished for not playing as well as I played last season. And I accept that. I just accept that. I need to improve, and that's what I'm trying to do. And whatever happens, happens. I have that mindset, and I'm not afraid. Like I'm just not afraid. Even if I get relegated, I don't mind. Like it's whatever happens, happens.
Heck yeah, brother.
I don't think there's any way to follow that apart from say great answers. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I've missed interviewing you, Fino, because you just haven't been picking up the wins, and we've missed talking to you. So I hope for
I miss your voice, guys. I haven't heard you for ages. Like,
a fan! Woo! One!
I think it would be a good meme if you guys like had a, you know, like old man like masks and stuff. So like once you call me, it's like you aged so much since I last won, and yeah.
The year is 2030.
Yeah.
Hearthstone has released its 19th League of Explorers set.
Yeah.
Fino breaks the curse.
Fino finally makes it to 1-63 in Hearthstone Grandmasters.
Fino, I'm so glad to see that you're in good spirits. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I think you've had a good performance this season, and it's just been on the bad side of some luck. So keep it up, brother. You put up a big streak last season, and I think you can do it again. Good luck in your next match next week.
Congrats.
Have a good one.